Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so. Because last night I did a short video talking about the Hate Crime Act coming in on the 1st of April and that it would be problematic for the police because all we had to do to defeat it was to keep phoning up the police every time you heard something hateful. And by hateful, because there's no definition of the word hate or what hate means within the Act, it's assumed to be anything that upsets you or offends you. Well, the report has just been released here now, and it's saying, and literally just not, a little while ago, and it's saying that Police Scotland will be pushed beyond their ability to respond because of the requirements of this hate crime act. And so when I was saying to you jokingly, well, not really jokingly, actually, from the 1st of April, phone up. Every time a politician speaks, phone up, phone up, phone up. And demand it is invested as a hate crime. Because the rules of this law, the elements of this law is, they must investigate. They have to investigate. We can break this act like that. Quite literally. Now, there are various different things, of course, that you can use. But we'll come to them within the piece. But it is absolutely marvellous. And I'm very pleased that I was proved right. Let's go. Police Scotland will be pushed beyond their already overstretched limit by a flawed hate crime act. The new bill will mean age, disability, religion, sexual orientation and transgender identity will be viewed as protected characteristics alongside race. Now, it is such a wonderful thing because you do have the 2010 Equality Act as well. And so within that is philosophical belief. And so even though it may or may not include philosophical belief within the Hate Crime Act, because the 2010 Equality Act is also a law within Scotland, it is something that can be subsumed in. You can say it's this. You can say it's that. You can say it's something else. There are many different ways you can push this act. He said something, I didn't like it. He said something against my age. I feel discriminated against my age. If he starts talking pensions and say, well, pensioners need to start, well, whoa, that's age discrimination. If he says this, if he says something about that, doesn't matter what it is. It does not matter. Now, we have an issue going through with a march, an Orange Order march, for example. And if a local authority say this Orange Order march can't go through, that's got to be religious discrimination. If you're allowing a Muslim march for pro-Gaza in Glasgow, you've certainly got to be allowing an Orange Order march, for example. So you've got that. You've got little things. It's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. And we can grind this into a very fine paste. And we must. Police Scotland will be pushed beyond their already stretched limits by a flawed hate crime legislation, which is due to come into force in the coming weeks. It will mean age, disability, religion, sexual orientation and transgender identity will be viewed as protected characteristics alongside race. Now, it doesn't matter. I can still call a woman in a frock a man, and there is precisely the square root of bugger all they can do with it. Now, I was going to do another piece about... it's this one. Let me just come across and I'll show you where it is. Boom. Here. Which is Hamza Yousaf reneging on the Hate Crime Act. Promises. It says it fears that feminists like J.K. Rowling could face arrest. But in actual fact, no, she can't. No, she can't. Because of the 2010 Equality Act. And so she is quite safe, I feel. Anyway, the move was part of a controversial law brought in by Hamza Yousaf 3 years ago, but long delayed over the fears over a lack of police training and IT systems. The then Justice Secretary was forced to backtrack on parts of the Hate Crime and Public Order Act due to fears for free speech. Now, as one of the wonderful things here, and this is another part that you can use. If I walk past a couple who stop talking as I walk past, I can, within the confines of this law, assume that they've stopped talking because they were talking about me. I can then say that that is a hate crime, phone the police then have to investigate. And when I say have to investigate, I mean, no, they have to investigate. I could walk past someone's house. I could look in and see two people talking. And if they stopped talking and looked out the window at me as I walked past, I could assume they were talking about me. And that's a hate crime. I report it. The police have to investigate. This is how bad this is. But of course, this bill wasn't brought in. It wasn't brought in to protect women. It wasn't brought in to protect gay people. It wasn't brought to protect trans people. We all know. We all know exactly why this bill was brought in. It was brought in to protect one little group, one little gang. People who were a bit like Humza. They were the ones that this bill was brought in to protect. But actually, it doesn't, because it says religion, right? I would suggest my philosophical belief, my religious belief, is that Islam is not a real religion. It's a cult. What are they going to do? If they say, oh no, you've spoke out, that's hate crime against religion, I go, no. So to say anything other than what I believe would be a hate crime against my religion. Where do you go? And the police arresting you for saying that, and say, you're telling me that I can't say this as part of my religion. That's a hate crime against me. I want that policeman arrested and charged with a hate crime. Do you see how badly flawed this law is? It's because it was brought in by Humza Yousaf, a man who's got no idea what he's doing. Anyway, this law is now due to kick in on April the 1st. You couldn't make it up. But opponents warned that officers are overstretched as it is and are in no position to lead the charge, just days after we told how up to 15,000 minor crimes will no longer be investigated. Tory Shadow Justice Secretary Russell Findlay said officers have been pushed to breaking point by relentless SNP cuts, so expecting them to enforce this flawed legislation should not be a priority. The belated enforcement of Humza Yousaf's flawed and dangerous Hate Crime Act comes days after Police Scotland admitted they won't be investigate a range of other crimes. Yes, but they have no option with this one. The law says they must investigate. If they don't, they are in breach of the law. The Conservatives would bin this law, thank heavens, which risks harming free speech, and instead recruit 1,000 extra officers to keep our communities safe. That's also what I said yesterday. I think I said 1,500. But hey, we can meet in the middle. Meanwhile, feminist groups argue that legislation could be used to target high-profile campaigners like author J.K. Rowling, who has faced online abuse for her opposition to gender self-ID, as indeed as Ash Regan and the other members of the Scottish Parliament and Westminster. You're going to go and arrest them as well? You're going to get... If someone stood in Holyrood and spoke out against gender ID, would that be deemed a hate crime? Because Holyrood does not have the same rights as the House of Commons. In the House of Commons, you can say anything and you are free. It's a free speech. You can say anything, do anything. You can insult people. You can say someone is this, someone is that. There is no comeback in law. That right does not extend to Holyrood. And so if you say it in Holyrood, you're not protected by the law that you are in Westminster. So if someone stood in Holyrood and said, well, no, I disagree with this gender I think it's not right. I think men are men, blah, 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 blah. Would a policeman come along and arrest them because someone in the gallery said that's a hate crime? Can you imagine someone like, say, example, pick one at random, Kate Forbes standing up saying, blah, 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 and this is my religious belief. Can you imagine someone saying, well, no, that's a hate crime, and a policeman having to come into the chamber and arrest her to question her? Because that's how flawed this legislation is. Anyway, the Harry Potter writer was last week ruled by cops down south, not to have met the criminal threshold for misgendering a TV presenter. That's because there is no crime. Susan Smith of For Women Scotland, even before this act, she said, it hits the statute books. Trans activists are reporting women to police for stickers, ribbons and social media comments. Do you know that they're reporting people for wearing, what's the purple and the green, the suffragette movement. No, that's hate crime against men, against trans, that's hate crime. Suffragettes are now a hate crime. Yeah, okay, off you go, sad wankers. Anyway, J.K. Rowling was reported for calling a trans-identified individual a man. But to be fair, She, J.K. Rowling, called him a man because he's a man. Days before this is due to go live, we still don't know what constitutes a crime or what police training have had, or what training police have had. That's because they don't know. There is no definition of what hate is. There is no bar. There's no definition. There's no idea. Nobody knows. And it's going to be the Wild West. And it's going to be fun. And like I said in my short last night, what do on the 1st of April? You phone up, you phone up, you phone up. And you report, and you report, and you report. Time and time again. Wipe the police out. Wipe them out so much that the Chief Constable, what's her name? Joe Farah, has to say, right, that's it. We're not doing it anymore. This law is dead. We can't investigate it. And then make Hamza Yousaf look like what he is. A prick. Coming up. So how long do we think this bill will last live on the on the books? It's flawed. It's broken. It's not going to work, and it hasn't even started yet. It's unenforceable, unpoliceable. It relies on he says, she says. There's going to be a load of doubt and uncertainty. There's going to be very little proof. Even malicious communications are very, very difficult to prove, even if you have the records. One of the things that you've got to do is prove intent rather than humour. You've got to prove that it was done outside of anger, because an angry response is not a prosecutable offence. If you said something in the heat of an argument, for example, it's not prosecutable. There's things like that. That's all there. You also have the fact that the 2010 Equality Act overrides it, number one. Number two, the European Convention on Human Rights overrides it. That's number two. And finally, of course, there's the fact that there is no legal definition of hate. And so therefore you cannot expect to be prosecuted for simply offending people, because there are so many things that people find offensive. If that was the case, the courts would never close. So what we have is a stupid man creating a stupid law that he did for only the reason to protect his gang, but was forced to expand it so that it didn't obviously look like blasphemy by the back door. And this is what you're left with. A mess. An absolute joke that nobody is going to enforce. No, there's not a policeman in Scotland that's going to enforce this. So it's a laugh, isn't it? Anyway, do keep the police working. Do make sure you phone them. Do complain, but only about politicians. Don't do it about your mate down the road. Don't do it about the neighbours. Just politicians. Report, report, report. Ross Greer, for example, he's a prime one. Let's have him reported, because every time he opens his mouth, I'm offended. Thanks very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and join me later in the next one. Bye.